Welcome back if you're returning from watching several or all of the episodes in this series on YouTube. If you're new, welcome. So, this is a video series that I've started. We're now in week 13 of how Profit First works in my business. So, I started this series because I had gone through a whole bunch of calls with prospects who were like, yeah, I either read the book, I listened to Mike Michalowicz at speak at a conference, or I heard it on a podcast, and I'm curious about it, but I'm not sure I really understand it. So I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to start a series that shows you how this works. So, so I put together this Google sheet because I thought it would be easier to show you without flipping through a whole bunch of different bank accounts on the screen, and it would be too easy to get lost, and it would make it really confusing. And that's really not the point of Profit First. Profit First is a system. It's about habits, and it's about being intentional with where you're taking the money from your business, the income that comes in, and where you're spending it, okay, or saving it for specific purposes. Now, this is week 13, but it's only week 13 in this video series. I've been doing Profit First for years, and it's amazing, and it's really transformed my life. So, but I do want to address one question. I had a really great question that came in last week, and it said, hey, my CPA always charges me in whole dollars, and I don't owe sales tax on my payments to my CPA. So I've been watching your videos, and I see when you put in your total deposits from the week before, it always ends in, like there's cents, like 58 cents or, 22 cents or 53 cents or whatever it is. It's not whole dollars, but, I'm paying my accountant, $500 even, or $450 even, or $800 even. It's never, so what gives? And I'm like, oh yeah. So this is another thing I do to make Profit First simple, because Profit First is about being intentional with your money, but it's also not creating chaos and not creating more work for you. Okay. It's meant to be easier to manage your money. So this is something I do that makes it easier for me to manage my money. All of my clients are on auto payments, which means because they're auto payments, I have payments that are processing to either their checking account through ACH, or to a credit card or a debit card, and then that's, there's a credit card processing fee. So there's banking fees or merchant service fees, whatever you want to call it, but there's fees to make those transactions happen electronically. And it's just a cost of doing business. I used to be paid by check all the time, and that became very painful for me. So I'm more than happy to pay the merchant service fees to be able to have auto payments come right directly into my account. Okay, make it easy for customers to do business with you. So, and especially because then it's less burden on me to do it as well, because I set it up. I set up the auto payments based on the terms of the contract, and then I do it once, set it up in the beginning, and then it's done through the term of that contract. So easy for me, easy for them, win-win, right? So here's the deal. When I do my deposit on this spreadsheet, and in real life, what, for Profit First, when I'm doing my allocations, I do not go back and say, oh, I had 5,000 come in last week as gross payments, like as what people owed me, but somehow do some weird allocation to like account for the credit card fees, because the net would have only been, $47.50 or something, whatever it is. I don't make it complicated. So I already know that my fees include the price of doing business with electronic transactions. So whether I, my income last week was $5,000 or $47.50, it's still $47.50. That, whether I do some type of an allocation. So I've had clients and prospects say to me, well, I take the OPEX, from my OPEX. If my credit card processing fees last week were $250, I take money from my OPEX, allocate it, transfer it to my income account to get my income account back up to what the gross income was. And then I do my allocations. Well, that's great if that works for you, but I'm trying to be simple and just I'm gonna still end up in a similar place, because the fact is the credit card processing fees are what, 3 to 4% of my total. So yes, it makes a difference, but not really. So that being said, yes, the deposit amount you see is a net deposit of all money that came into my accounts, into my income account last week, net. So subtract out the credit card merchant service fees. That's what I then allocate out to my accounts. Okay. So if you have any questions, let me know. So I started this spreadsheet so that, because it was too, I actually did my first episode, I recorded it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just flipped through a whole bunch of different screens, through different bank accounts, and it was a little nightmarish to watch. And actually, frankly, it was a little bit of a nightmare to record. So this spreadsheet made it easier for me to show how Profit First works. And then so the numbers that you're seeing here is a summary of what's happening this week in my accounts. But then down here, these graphs give you a better overall. This actually works way better. I love these graphs a lot better than what I could show you logging into my bank, because this is giving you a visual of what's happening in each of these accounts. So let's dig in for this week. Okay, so I had a really good week last week. So $6,052.26 came in. And then you'll see how I already have the allocations calculated. Now, I bank at Relay Bank, at Relay Fi, and there is and the reason why I do this is because, again, I needed to make my life simple. So Relay Fi allows me to set up an automatic rule, and it's actually called the Profit First allocation rule. So I can set up automatic transfers between my accounts within Relay based on percentage. So I just went in, I clicked the Profit First. There's literally a button that has the book Profit First as the icon. I click the Profit First button, and then it asks which account and what's your percentage. So I put in my current allocation percentages for each account, and then I tell it to leave a minimum. I think it's $50 each week. So how the rule works is it goes in and says whatever the income balance is in my account, in my income account, whatever the balance is in my income account every Monday morning, keep $50 in that account, and then everything above $50 allocated out to these bank accounts in this way. So you can see from here how the money that came in last week got allocated to my different accounts. And then the one thing that's happened, my credit card. So in my business, I have one check that goes out routinely for rent. And sometimes I have other checks, and typically it's for ad spend if I do local print ads in different places. But everything else goes onto a credit card because I get cash back on my credit card. So that's which actually, in all honesty, probably offsets the amount that I pay in credit card processing fees. So, well, maybe not in full, but it helps offset some of that. So I enjoy the cash backs on the cash back reward on my credit card. So anything that I can put on a credit card, I do. And so then that way, and that eases my payables process too, because now I just have one check to cut every month for rent, and then make sure that my credit card gets paid. Everything else just hits the credit card. Okay. So the one thing that I did have this week is making payroll. Now it's me and a VA, and she works part-time. She works, a couple hours a week as I need her, and she's amazing. I've talked about her before. Hi, Rochelle. So I ran payroll, and the total cost $51.23.28. Oh, and I didn't do that right. Wrong column, sorry. So 512328 is being withdrawn from my OpEx account. So I had 5361 in there. I paid out 5123. So I do have my allocation this week, so that's leaving me a balance of 2114. But because I save money for my OpEx, I save for my owner's comp. So I replenish the OPEX account for the amount it spent for me. So 4140.38. And Google Sheets does a weird thing where you can't start a formula with a minus. The same that you can do in Excel. Okay, so I took out 4140.38 from my owner's comp account. And I'm going to, and I transferred it over to my OPEX. Okay, so, just to remind you how this works. I have my different bank accounts. I'm saving 48% of my income for owner's comp. And this owner comp, it reflects my W-2. My business is taxes and S Corp, so it reflects my W-2 payroll. And I actually, this amount is my total gross plus employer payroll taxes. So I'm making sure that all of that's saved for. And then any amount that I take out as a distribution would come out of this account as well. And I'm kind of saving it up for Christmas, so for year end. So that's why this balance is building. I've been living on my W-2 paycheck. I haven't been taking distributions out, but at some point I will take out a distribution. So my owner's comp account is funding my portion of the payroll that just got paid. And so now you can see where the OPEX account, like I said, 5361, I subtracted what I paid in payroll, but I replenished most of it through my owner's comp account, added my current allocation, and now I have a new bank balance. So even after all is said and done, the bank balance still ends up higher than what it started with this week. So what we see down here is what's happening in these accounts. So the profit, it went up all quarter, and then it went down because I took a distribution October 1st, and now I'm building back up again. Owner's comp, it goes up every week slightly, and then down every other week as I pay payroll, as I pay myself on payroll. Tax runs similar as the profit account, where it goes up for a quarter, and then I made a payment, and it's just different timing. So the tax payment, I think I made the first or second week in September, whereas I didn't take the profit distribution until October 1st, until the end of the third quarter. And this was an estimated tax payment. So I do, out of my W-2 paycheck, I do have federal income tax withheld and some state tax, but I need to make estimated payments for my net income on my business. And so so I still had an estimated tax payment that I owed. And then OPEX, and so see how this craziness, there's no predictability in this OPEX account. And by having my 5 different accounts, I'm eliminating as much craziness as possible out of the OPEX account, okay? And then my mastermind account, so this is even faster. It works the same as the profit account and the tax account, but my mastermind account works on a monthly cycle. So I contribute to my mastermind account every week, but the mastermind, so my mastermind has monthly dues, plus we meet several times a year in person. So I also set aside money for travel costs. So meals, actually airfare or tolls if I'm driving or whatnot. So plus food and entertainment while we're gone, or the one we meet in person. So this account has been going, up and then down because I pay. So everything that I pay for my mastermind comes out of my, is charged on my credit card. So just how I did my reimbursement from my owner's comp to my OPEX account, when I pay my credit card, I do this similar transfer, but instead it comes from my mastermind account. So it would come from my mastermind into my OPEX account. So this way I just make sure that I always have money set aside for my mastermind. So let me know, does this make sense? Is this simpler than you think from reading the book, or does this seem to make it more complicated? I mean, hopefully it's making it easier to understand. But if you have any questions at all about Profit First, let me know. I'd be happy to help you out. Thanks.